everyone, and welcome to our first webinar for the new year, which is the 2026 payroll predictions and trends. Everything you need to know from our team here at Ciphr. It's great to have you with us today. I'm thrilled to be joined by Paul Graham, our Senior Product Manager. Welcome, Paul.
Thanks, Catherine. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And also Claire Ward, our Regulatory Analyst. Hi, Claire. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Catherine. Happy to be here.
Last but not least is Gina Neal, our Account Development Manager for Benefits. Welcome, Gina. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Hi, everyone.
Very well, thanks. Great to have you all with us today. Here's a quick look at our agenda. I'll be taking you through a little bit about Ciphr in case you're new to us and haven't come across our software before handing over to the team, and we'll talk about the big picture impacting payroll, spending trends for payroll this year, as well as challenges. And then Gina's going to take us through a specific look at benefits and again covering spending trends and key challenges. We also have time to answer your questions in a Q&A, so do send those in at any time. You can also use the public chat to send in your thoughts or comments about what we're discussing, and we'll be sending some polls for you to take part in too. This webinar is being recorded and the recording will be emailed to you afterwards, so look out for that in your emails. In case you haven't come across Ciphr before, here's a quick overview of all of our software and services. We offer people management solutions across the employee lifecycle, from recruitment and onboarding through to payroll, of course, both software and bureau services, as well as LMS, e-learning, analytics, AI functionality, and benefits. Our payroll software was named Ciphr Software Product of the Year 2025, praised for its modern, intuitive user interface, and it's been designed by payroll professionals for payroll professionals. It also features advanced real-time calculation functionality, including auto back pay and absence and holiday average calculations, and allows easy integration with third-party systems, including our HR software. So if you would like to find out more about our payroll software, you can opt in to book a demo with us. You can use the link on your screen now to see how our new payroll software could really make your life easier, especially with its real-time calculations, which give you instant visibility of payroll at any time. And that payroll software integrates seamlessly with our HR software to enable a seamless transfer of data between the two systems in real time. There's no Excel files, no STFP sites, and you have full control over your payroll data at all times. So again, if you're interested in exploring the integration between that cloud payroll software and our HR software, please hit the link on your screen and we'll be in touch with you to arrange that. Also today, we're talking about benefits. Our benefits platform is powered by Avantis, who joined Ciphr a little over a year ago. They're a leading UK-based provider of flexible employee benefits technology and products with more than 1,100 customers across the UK. That system also will integrate with our HR system to enable your employees to access their benefits and make their selections quickly and easily. Again, if you'd like to take a demo of that, feel free. We'd love to show you that product. You can hit the link on your screen now to request that demo, and one of our experts will be in touch with you to arrange that. So moving on to the main content for today are the challenges and trends for 2026. We're basing some of this information off of our 2026 trend survey, which you might have taken part in. In October last year, we surveyed over 100 HR payroll and benefits professionals across the UK to understand their key challenges and priorities for the year ahead. And that's given us a real clear picture of where organisations are focusing this year. And with that, I'm going to hand over to the team to take you through some of the findings.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Catherine. That's great. So in terms of what's happening in payroll and what's going on in 2026, the results of our survey has shown us quite a large amount of data, and three big themes really stood out. First one, and it's not surprising, is the rising costs and financial pressure linked to legislative change. Things like the Employment Rights Bill, are going to hit certain sectors quite hard, adding complexity and cost. Claire, what's your take on that, being our legislative expert?
Thanks, Paul. So I think everybody has the same concerns in their brains, what they're thinking about for the future. Every time legislation changes, it seems to be at an additional cost to business. So, we've had national insurance changes, they're talking about salary sacrifice changes, the changes to SSP, and changes to parental leave, day one rights. All of that we know are coming through as part of the ERA now. So we need to be ready, but we're also the people that can help the rest of the business budget. So, we are aware of where those extra costs are going to come from. So it's down to us to go to finance, for example, and say, have these been included in your budgeting costs for this year?
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Definitely. And then the second theme, and this is something I'm really passionate about, and especially in my role at Ciphr, it's the growing role of automation and AI in payroll operations. It's not just about automating repetitive tasks anymore. We're really trying to talk about predictive analytics, smarter compliance checks, and ultimately improving the employee experience at the same time.
So, yeah, I think I'm always wary about AI, because with what I do, it's new stuff coming through. But AI can help us. It can spot anomalies before they become errors. We can set warnings up. We can free up the payroll team from that day-to-day data processing into the checks and into the reviews, and actually make them focus on more strategic stuff, but also on finding those errors and making us more accurate. Payroll is historically a very accurate process anyway, but we all stress about it. So, how can we use AI to the best of our ability to help us, not hinder us?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's quite a big thing, isn't it? And the third theme, again, unsurprisingly, is the increasing complexity in processes and integration as well. Things like performance-related pay, variable payments. A lot of payrolls are extremely complex, and we need to try and streamline those as much as possible, certainly through integration. But it means that complexity. Payroll can't operate in isolation anymore. It has to be connected.
Yeah, I think it's important to see that where systems aren't connected, there's manual input. Manual integration always causes, it's an area where there are risks, shall we say, from a compliance perspective. That's where most errors would occur. But I think it's key to getting those, helping us to improve, to move forward, to find those errors faster and more efficiently. But also, isn't that just what we're looking at now? Everything that's come up from this survey is what we're already considering, isn't it, Paul?
Well, precisely, and that's exactly it. These themes aren't just challenges. We're using these to really shape what we're doing, shape our roadmap, and we've already heavily invested in integrating HR and payroll. Catherine alluded to that earlier. Our next focus is going to be on benefits, which we'll hear about shortly. So we really are trying to build these AI capabilities, the automation, the integration, to help payroll teams and the wider business stay ahead of these challenges. So everything that you see here today, we are reflecting and taking into the platform.
I think that takes us quite nicely onto the actual next slide, which is what the benefits experts are talking about. So over to Paul and Gina here for this conversation.
This slide's all about what's currently on the minds of benefits experts, and it really does reflect the challenges and opportunities that we're all facing right now. The results on the slide, obviously, from our survey that we've come out, but actually, before I sort of go through it all, it would be really good if anyone could put in the chat any other challenges or what they're finding that they've personally noticed happening in 2025, or what they think is going to happen in 2026, just to kind of add to that as well. So I'll let people post in there while I just start to go through the slide. So firstly, obviously, rising cost pressures are a big concern. Rising benefit costs, increases in national insurance. That means employers are under pressure to really stay competitive without breaking the budget. It's driving a lot of creativity, actually, about how benefits are structured and delivered. The demand for flexibility and personalisation are becoming non-negotiable, really. They want benefits that fit them. They don't want to log onto a platform where, you know, they might not be interested in private medical insurance, but they might have another interest in maybe a health cash plan, which isn't as which is just more cost efficient for them and really suits their circumstances more. So it's really about tailoring those benefits around each person and the demographic that you've got within the business. They've got, I mean, things like lifestyle perks and sort of inclusion as well. There's really benefits have got to work for everyone. And finally, on there, it's all about well-being, which is a huge subject at the moment, a real shift towards holistic support, financial, physical and mental health. Preventative care, mental health resources, they're all becoming a big priority, not just a nice to have as an extra. So basically, the takeaway is we need to balance cost control with innovation and offer benefits that are flexible, well-being focused. And, you know, when you get it right, you've got a real edge in attracting and retaining talent within the business as well.
Okay, thanks for that, Gina. There's not much in the chat yet, but maybe that'll come through as we go through the whole webinar. You know, we're keen to engage with everybody to know what's going on. So if anybody does have any reflections, please do feel free. We are here to communicate with you and have conversations as well as just showing what we've come across. So looking at the big picture impacting payroll at the moment, then what are the challenges that we have got going on? What is the perception of the challenges that's going on? And what are we doing about it? We all know that the Employment Rights Bill, now an act, is going to have some changes for us. We know, I've already mentioned, SSP is going to be changing. Parental rights are going to be changing. They're all going to have an impact on cost. We also need to consider that AI is going to help us moving forward. So let's take this through to the next bit then and see what trends are most impacting payroll teams in 2026. This is the view that you guys who, or the people that responded to the survey came back with. And Paul, they're not a million miles away from our own perception, are they?
No, of course not. No, I mean, as we can see, the very first item we've got in there, which we have alluded to already, is the rising costs. You know, 84.8% is huge. That's a lot of people saying we're concerned about this. It's going to hit us hard. Costs will keep going up. You know, businesses are under pressure, and payroll and benefits teams are going to feel that ripple effect.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we got hit hard with the national insurance changes last year. This year we've got the statutory contributions for, you know, the increased payments for SSP or for sickness from day one, and also the ability for some parental leave from day one rights. There's a lot of stuff that is going to impact on that change, and not least of which, as we go through this, we'll discuss towards the end with Gina a bit more about salary sacrifice. But I think right now that's a bit of a red herring, because that's not due until 2029, and a lot can happen in those 3 years. The government could change, we could have elections, we could have all sorts of things. But looking at what else is on this particular slide, we've got things like cost of living and wage expectation. We can't change those, so we have to work with stuff that is in our control.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, we do need to try, and employers are asking for more to keep up with inflation, and that puts payroll in the spotlight. You know, it's not just about us having the ability to process pay. It's about managing expectations and forecasting accurately. You know, forecasting and budgeting are key dependencies within this to try and aid who we can and aid employees within a business.
Yeah, I think also with the budget coming as late as it did last year, people again have had to go and revisit planned budgets to see what the impact of that budget has been on their costing. So, you know, I think if we are going to look at what is going to impact us most, for me, it's things like AI, the automation that's going to save time, which effectively saves money.
Yeah, of course, and it certainly will. You know, it will get rid of the mundane, repetitive tasks and allow people to focus on the strategic items. And you know, so the takeaway certainly from this slide for me, you know, everyone's different, but payroll teams, payroll and benefits teams, we aren't just number crunchers anymore. You know, we are strategic partners. We have to help the business navigate cost pressures, compliance, tech transformation. You know, that's exactly what we're building as part of our roadmap and our offering.
Yeah, and I think that's right. I think we need to be engaging our logical brains and helping with that strategic stuff rather than just looking at churning through data and processing stuff, which automation can do for us. So moving on then, we asked what these payroll spending trends for 2026 were likely to be. And I think the next couple of slides actually show an interesting perception in where that cost is going to go, what people are going to invest in. So having a look at this then, Paul, what's your take on this?
Yeah, so bear with me. In terms of the feedback that we got, we know cost reduction is a big thing. So the fact that 40% of people are looking to cut costs isn't a surprise. It's a very big number, and it makes sense. You know, it makes sense because there are increasing cost pressures all the way through.
Yeah, and I think people are looking at ways to save money without reducing service, without reducing what we can deliver, but there are ways to save money. It's like every other area of life right now. Costs have gone up. What can we do to move forward without reducing our quality and deliverables?
Yeah, of course. And I think that's where the second item comes in terms of this pie chart here. You know, we've got 40% cutting costs, but we've also got 27% saying that they'll invest more in payroll software, which ultimately will lean into the cutting of costs.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you do have to invest to move forward, isn't it? You know, people on maybe older systems where there's a lot of manual work, that work could be lifted and shifted into an automation with a more modern system. Just finding ways to be more efficient doesn't mean we're cutting anything. It's just we're able to do more in less time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's creating operational efficiencies and reducing the risk of error at the same time. You know, organizations want to save money, but they know that they're smart enough to know that technology nowadays is the way to do it without cutting corners.
Yeah, and I think things like real-time reporting, built-in compliance checks, they actually all help us stay not only compliant but visible within the business as being efficient and the source of valuable data. And I think what a lot of organizations don't necessarily pick up is how much valuable data payroll can provide into their budgeting and costing. Generally, payroll is one of the biggest individual costs that an organization has. So moving on then to the next slide, it's asking us where people thought, so the respondents to the survey, where they thought they might invest that extra money in the coming year.
Yeah, of course. And I don't think this is necessarily a surprise either. AI is becoming more and more ingrained into our everyday life, our everyday, certainly in work. So in terms of investing into AI more is not a surprise. I'm not surprised that that's 20%. It's quite a large number as to what people predict and where people think that the spend is going to go.
Yeah, and then Gina, what about investment in benefits platforms?
I mean, it's just what's actually surprising me. Well, not surprised me, but payroll and benefits platforms, they're so close in their percentage of the importance of how benefits platforms really evolved over the years is just, I mean, it's a bit of a no-brainer now with this saving of time, the administration, everything, the automation can just be taken off people, and we can save you on headcount as well. So you can, use that headcount in other areas of the business, and really to sort of automate, save time, also save mistakes as well, because actually automating that through as well to payroll and everything just saves any mistakes going through.
Yeah, and I think also we have to be aware that we all know mandatory payrolling of benefits in kind is coming next year. 2027, it will be mandatory. So the more you can get systems, benefits platforms and payroll platforms to integrate and talk to each other. Paul, you'll have a better insight into that than I have.
Yeah, so the integration piece it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. Businesses will risk the data not being correct. If you've got two separate systems, you need to keep on top of both of them in terms of data. An integration really does just provide a single source of truth. One that not only what it provides a seamless transition of data. That's what it's there for. But the single source of truth for people to actually rely upon and report on as well. I think it's the reporting aspect is one that people don't necessarily think about too much when it comes to an integration. But if people will be trying to save costs, trying to forecast, so on and so forth, you don't want to be doing that across multiple systems. That's where an integration is key.
No, it's important to have a single source that you're not trying to cross-check everything with data that's coming out of payroll, data that's coming out of HR, data that's coming out of a benefits platform, because it'll never match. Let's be honest. It's just an inefficient use of time where we could be doing much more useful things with that time. And time is ultimately money. So looking at better analytics and reporting, that's basically what we've just said. Organizations want the data that we hold. So it's key for us to be able to provide that data in a timely and usable manner for customers, and they can then use that for their budgeting, etc.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that leads us on quite nicely to the next slide as well.
It does,
really.
yeah.
Yeah. So the why is just as important as the where. Really, we need to get to the bottom of why people are spending and investing in certain aspects of their ecosystem. And largely it's about everything that we've just said. It's the automation and the results of being more accurate in terms of what we are automating.
And I think that's perfectly right. People are looking for better value out of their systems to save them time and money, and provide decent information. So I think that moves us forward into what challenges there are for payroll in 2026. There are going to be a lot, obviously. There always are. Payroll never stands still. We know that. I've had over 40 years of it never standing still. So what are the challenges that we have most impacting payroll teams for the coming year then?
Yeah, so I mean, this is quite interesting, really, and it's always difficult to know or try and judge what people are gonna come back with. But the top one is very, very clear. You know, almost 79% of people are saying that the problem is keeping up with AI, automation, and
I would
emerging
go with
tech.
that.
Yeah.
I personally, it's like, oh, AI this and AI that, and my brain just fries a little bit at certain points.
Yeah, and I think it's, you know, I think that's a cultural thing within the payroll industry, really. You know, certainly when you consider what we do and the data that we deal with, AI is naturally going to be a concern, if you like, for want of a better word. But because it's new, you know, we haven't been used to using that within the payroll industry. And
Payroll's not good at you. We have to make sure that it's doing what we want it to do and it's safe to use.
yeah, and I think and that's exactly it, isn't it? It's proving that it can help the industry rather than hinder it.
Yeah, rather than it just being a trend that's going to come and go quite quickly, it's about proving its usefulness, proving what it can do for us. You know, historically, payroll, I don't like change. A lot of people don't like change, but change for change's sake is one thing. Change where it's actually going to benefit you is something very different. And, you know, when you've got a lot going on, and there is a lot going on, how can we cram all of that going on into the same space of time that we had last year without all of those extras?
Yeah, of course. And then that's the thing, it really is going to help. It really is going to help.
So, I mean, things like keeping up with legislation, for example, you know, that's my bread and butter, if you like. That's what I do day in and day out. But to the payroll person that's delivering a payroll every day, they don't get the opportunity to sit and read the details. So we are very reliant upon Teams integration, data coming out, webinars even like this, where we can pick up that information with the least, and I don't take this the wrong way, the least effort, the fastest possible way to get the data that we need to do our job.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and it's a no-brainer, isn't it? You know, we want to be more efficient. We're trying to make other people more efficient. It makes perfect sense. And then the next up, obviously, we've got managing costs again. You know, 73%. It's quite
They're not
high.
going to go anywhere, are they?
No, they aren't.
We can only control what is within our power. We can't control those increasing costs, so we have to manage them to the best of our use by finding ways around.
Yeah, which I think is where the latter point or the latter element on this bar chart comes in. It's the tech. It will always come back to the tech, I think, when we're trying to create efficiencies. You know, integrating HR, finance with other HR, finance and other business systems like benefits, which Gina, which is probably where you come in. You know, we've spent a lot of time within Ciphr already, as we've said, integrating HR and payroll, and the next focus is going to be to do that with benefits. So Gina, why do you think that's so important?
Well, it's huge. When payroll and benefit systems don't talk to each other, you get errors or delays, people get frustrated. You know, with integration, everything can flow seamlessly. Changes in the benefits update payroll automatically. Employees will get the right deductions each time, so no manual process. So it's really about accuracy, compliance, and a better experience for everyone, you know, HR and the employees actually selecting the benefits as well.
Yeah, definitely. And for us, that's the plan, isn't it? Bringing payroll and benefits closer together alongside HR. It's easier for organisations to manage the employee life cycle, the entire employee life cycle in one place, you know, one ecosystem.
Yeah, exciting times.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so moving on then, keeping up with AI, automation and emerging technologies. What are those challenges then, Paul?
Yeah, so with everything like this, with anything like this, there are always going to be challenges. You know, the rapid change of pace, technology is evolving faster than ever. You know, payroll teams are under pressure and need to adopt new tools without disrupting operations. Secondly, the skills gap. This is another big one. Many payroll professionals aren't trained in AI or automation. So there's going to be quite a steep learning curve that organisations will need to consider and address too. Thirdly, integration complexity, and I've been through this a couple of times now. Trying to introduce an integration is complex, and it is quite hard work, but it needs to happen. We've just highlighted all the benefits about an integration. There certainly are a lot of other things that we can consider. But I mean, cost and ROI concerns as well. Investment, especially when businesses are going to feel the pinch, especially nowadays with the costs inflating. Businesses need to be able to at least plan for clear returns before committing to any emerging tech. And finally, it's compliance risks. We work in such a compliance heavy industry that people need to be confident that there aren't going to be any risks when it comes to legislation updates and wider compliance.
Yeah, and compliance is always going to be top of the pile for risks. So, I think maybe that leads us quite nicely on to what the solutions are for all of those relevant challenges.
Yeah, exactly. So I think certainly for the first one, things being so quick in terms of the change of pace, it's to start small. Adopt a phased approach with things like AI, automation, new tech. I think businesses will try and do things too quickly, and ultimately that will come with its own problems. So I think starting small and adopting a phased approach will be key. And then we've got addressing the skills gap. It's invested in training, isn't it? And I think that's key. We need to recognise that there is going to be new tech and new ways of working, but ultimately the people that you have will need to be the ones to manage that. So they need to be upskilled for the future, and it's something that people can't.
It's planning for that, isn't it? You can't. We're constantly, people are at max capacity trying to get payrolls and stuff out the door and providing the relevant reporting at this time of year. It's finding and ensuring that the time is allowed for that upskilling, because training is essential, because otherwise we'll get it wrong and then we're going to blame the tools, because we always blame the tools.
Yeah, exactly. It's always the tools, isn't it? But you're right. No, finding the time to do that and ensuring the time to do that is key. But it's also, I think that comes on to our third point as well, though. It's also choosing the right tech at the same time. Future ready platform. It's quite a broad statement, but it's tech that's cloud based, API driven, designed for integration. These are the things that ultimately people need to be looking out for in order to.
One size doesn't fit all, so you need the flexibility built in there as well, because every single payroll I've ever worked on has different requirements. They're not you can't run a payroll where everything is the same for every single customer. It doesn't work like that.
No, exactly, and I think that's the thing. And you're right. The payrolls I've worked on as well, that every one of them has their own nuance, and tech can't address every single nuance. You're right, but it can certainly do the heavy lifting, and that's where the internal operational efficiencies come for you to be able to look at those things on the edge of the actual payroll and see how you can work those out internally.
That's actually where it's viable and sensible to run those pilots to work out what is useful and what isn't, and what you can and can't compromise on.
Yeah, of course. And not everything can be automated, like we've said, but you're right. It is finding that compromise, trying to hit the biggest thing that is proving more complex, proving more manual effort, and ultimately translating that into tech rather than the smaller aspects of the role.
Equally engaging with partners that want to work with you to do the same. Those third-party partners, often external to your software provider. You know, HMRC would be a nice one, wouldn't it? So,
yeah, it would. But again, you know, for all of their faults, they are there to do the job.
Absolutely, they're doing a job.
Yeah.
I am aware of time, so I'm going to move on to the next slide now, which is basically me. So sorry about that. So keeping pace with legislative and regulatory changes. We know that there is an awful lot going on. There always is, particularly at this time of year. We have constantly evolving regulations coming through. You know, the ERA, the Employment Rights Act, wasn't actually made an act until the 18th of December. The guidance for that is still coming out. We're still having to look through what we need to deliver for April and beyond. And because that's going to go right through to the end of 2027, you know, I'm currently now trying to build a roadmap of when these things come in and what we need to do. And actually, what do we need to put in the software to enable people to do things more efficiently, to help them to, you know, what are the extra fields that are needed to create, you know, a gender pay gap or a menopause action plan that's going to be mandatory, all of those sorts of things. Late changes without the guidance, there's nothing more frustrating. You know, the guidance for benefits in kind didn't come out until December. So, you know, we've got a lot of reading, a lot of catching up to do, and it's a massive change. People think it's just a repeat of what we've been doing for the last 10, 12 years, but actually the background reporting to HMRC is significantly more detailed, which means we need more detail within our products. All of this has an operational impact, because where's that detail going to come from? How do we inform people that they need to collect that data? And planning and development of our releases so that it's timely. When we're looking at when we get a product out to market, it has to be right, but it also has to be timely, giving people time to actually prepare the data that's needed to move into that next phase of the requirements. So mass is going on. What about the solutions? Well, what can we do? We've got to look at monitoring. We've got to look at regular training and communication, I think, is an absolute key. So for anybody on this webinar, look out for all the webinars that are going to be coming through the summer and early autumn, because, you know, as we go through, we will be doing more. We've got an Employment Rights Act webinar in February. Looking at speaking with external experts and industry experts so that we're all aligned on what those pieces of guidance mean, and going back for further clarification when needed. But we also need to integrate that compliance within our product. As we've always said, you know, we've already said things like, I don't know, holiday pay calculations. Let's make them easy. Let's put them in the system so that they're there and we can trust them, and we're not doing it on an Excel spreadsheet, which is time consuming and ultimately a challenge. So yeah, that's me, but you know, it's all going, it's going to move forward. Let's have a look then at what we can do around managing expectations for benefits, Gina, where wages are increasing, but the expectations of benefits available is also increasing.
Well, yeah, exactly. And trying to keep costs under control is really difficult. So, you know, there's lots of things you can do with salary sacrifice schemes, cost neutral benefits. I mean, here at Ciphr, we do, we have for 10 months of the year, we have a self-care Friday afternoon, which everybody absolutely loves. Taking time out, everybody works really hard. We know people put in too many hours, and just to take that time back and do something for yourself. We also have, which is today for us actually, I'm going to shoot into the office for Monday Munchies, where we all get together, just take an hour out and we sit there and have a lovely lunch together. So just these kind of cost neutral benefits can be really helpful when it comes to engagement within employees as well. But really it is a balancing act, keeping the costs under control, still attracting and retaining talent. So flexible benefit platforms can really help you to offer different needs to different people. We've got total reward statements. Now these are really powerful. We have people come to us who literally they just want total reward statements. They are such a powerful tool, that a live update that at any time you can run through with your employees, you know, the real true value of the worth of their employment package. It's not just about the basic salary.
That's important, isn't it, Gina? Because it's not all down to basic salary. You know, your pension is a future saving, if you like. And, you know, healthcare, for example, if you can't get to see your GP, you know, having a virtual GP's appointments available, all of those sorts of things add value to your employment, and also help take stress out of life.
Yeah, and it saves people hopping around jobs just on a basic salary as well, because, you know, employers have a lot more to offer these days.
Yeah, and I think that's right. So Paul, then moving on to the next slide there, integrating payroll with HR, finance and other business systems. We've touched on this a little bit before, but what are the specific challenges there?
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think we have touched on a fair few of the challenges at the very least. But, you know, data silos and inconsistent information, you know, that's probably the biggest one when it comes to the lack of integration. These are the things that people are going to see if they don't integrate. And if you haven't got an integration, it really makes it hard to maintain accuracy across those systems. Like you said, it's, you know, you have to make those updates multiple times in many different places, and it's quite an onerous task, really. But then we move on to like the complexity of legacy systems. You know, a lot of older systems that are on the market aren't designed to communicate with modern platforms, and therefore the integration comes to a standstill straight away. You know, you will have to be exporting and importing. That's not true integration. So there are things that can be done. Compliance risk, you know, we've touched on this. Disconnected systems will absolutely increase a compliance risk, just because of the chance of errors or missed regulatory requirements, i.e.
Yeah, I can't say that word either. It's a shame it's in my job title, because I can't say it.
Exactly. And finally, you know, we've got employee experience as well. You know, ultimately, the experience of an employee is key. You know, and if we're struggling with those, people will naturally look around. They'll try and go elsewhere if they're having problems with their pay, having problems with their pay slip, so on and so forth. So there are things
that's also, you know, a time saving, isn't it? Because the employee is wasting time contacting their HR or benefits people, who then have to take time out of their day job to respond.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So the more efficient we can be and the more self-serving we can be, the better for all of us. I don't necessarily want to go bother somebody else with me trying to find what benefits suit me and my lifestyle.
No, precisely. And, you know, that's where employee self-service portal, I'm getting into the solutions now, but that's where self-service portals and things like that are so important. But obviously we've got the high cost of integration projects as well. You know, it depends what you're integrating and when, but ultimately there is a cost attached to those, which need to be taken into account. And I'll very quickly run through the solutions for these challenges. But I mean, ultimately, it is a case of real-time data sync, data from A to B in a validated and seamless manner, easy peasy. Transition from legacy systems to modern cloud platforms, you know, it's a no-brainer. automated compliance checks, which we're doing ourselves at the moment. Self-service portals we've just touched upon, and definitely, and this probably is the biggest one, is the phased cost-effective integration. We've said about the reduction in costs. We've said how businesses are concerned about rising costs and needing to save money. So trying to do it in a smart way and a cost-effective way is key. Really key.
Some of this is also about like a short-term increase in cost for a long-term gain, isn't it? Where you put a project team together to actually put that implementation in place. There'll be more people required, there'll be different skill sets required, but that short-term investment gives you a long-term gain.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's recognizing and maximizing the ROI on it. As soon as you invest anything, you do need to see a return, and that return might be over a period of years, but ultimately, you're still going to get that return.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. So now we're moving on to the big picture impacting benefits then, Gina, and what people perceived were the challenges in the benefits arena. So looking then for you, what would you say your response to what these respondees, that's not even English, Claire, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, so as you can see, the first is the rising cost of living and wage expectations. So this is the number one factor. Employers are feeling the pinch. They expect employers to respond with competitive pay and benefits. So it's putting a real pressure on organisations to balance affordability with attractiveness as well. We've then got rising cost of business, which again, businesses are really feeling this. Higher operating costs, as we kind of discussed previously, meaning, you've just got to be a bit more strategic about spend, making sure every pound is going to deliver. The third one here, mental health and wellbeing concerns. This has just been on everyone's minds now for a long time, and it's just getting more and more important. Employees are increasingly expecting and wanting support for mental health and wellbeing, and benefits packages have to reflect that now. It's not just about retail discounts anymore. It's not just about, getting a few % off at the local shops. It's about wellbeing.
And I think that's reflected in the government's overall push to mental health, healthcare and awareness and stuff like that, isn't it? So we're just getting the reflection of what is going on in the wider world.
And then UK employment law. So yeah, legislative. I'm going to not say it now. Legislative changes will continue to shape what employers can and must offer. So. But,
and that's going to be ongoing, but as we said earlier, 2029 is a long way off. Let's wait and see what actually happens without jumping from frying pan into fire. We'll get something there that actually helps. So moving on to spending trends for benefits, then this is what people are expecting to happen. How do you feel about this, Gina? Is this what you're getting reflected?
So most organisations are not looking to cut benefits. They want to be smarter with them. And that's sort of what the market's looking at, where we're focusing. We want to give businesses the tools to manage those benefits strategically, integrate them with payroll, communicate the value clearly to employees. Everything's got to be transparent.
Yeah, and I think that's right. Because the more you can see, when we go to the next slide, is why are organisations investing and what will they invest in? So are you seeing a trend there?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, attraction and retention, rising cost of living. As you can see, that there are the top two. Again, feeling the squeeze, the competitive job markets. Benefits can really just help ease that pressure. So, as we've talked about, salary sacrifice, cost neutral, wellbeing support, all of that is just becoming more and more important.
And also, when you've got maybe two offers on the table, you're lucky enough to get two offers of a very similar salary. then people do look at the differences, you know, the culture, the benefits, the location, all of that sort of stuff comes. It's not just about salary, as I said earlier.
Yeah, employees, I mean, they're also looking for help managing their own finances as well, which has never really been anything, it's never been a focus from since I was younger and started in employment, and really people need help and advice, and employers are getting better at responding to this as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been in payroll long enough to know that for many years we've been trying to get payroll and understanding of your personal finances into the curriculum at school. It doesn't happen, so it does fall to employers to get that message across and support that learning.
Yeah.
So what are your challenges?
Sorry to interrupt, we've only got 10 minutes left, so we may need to whiz through this section at the end.
Okay,
Gina and Claire.
Sorry, Catherine.
That's fine, I'll whiz through. So challenges for benefit teams, and if you want to pop to the next slide, great. So we asked the benefit teams what challenges is most impacting them. Obviously at the top here we've got the balancing the cost control. So this reinforces really what we've seen throughout, the cost pressures, but employers can't afford to compromise on attracting talent as well. Excuse me. Maintaining employee engagement with the right benefits, making sure employees understand them, how they use them, what they do, how do you sign up for them, and they value them as well. Rising cost of benefits provision shows how inflation and market changes are impacting things actually as well. And finally, keeping pace with changing employee expectations. This is about constantly keeping in touch with the needs of your workforce, maybe surveys, and really sort of evolving your strategy to evolve benefits as the workplace needs shift as well.
And I think that brings us on to this particular slide where, you know, cost and expectation when introducing a flexible benefits package is there that big challenge. So what would you say then are, you know, the options, the challenges and the potential solutions?
So also you can see the challenges here, the pressures, rising costs, need to stay competitive, and the complexity of managing multiple providers as well. But if you just pop the solutions up actually, Claire, thank you. So really it's about the solutions are flexible benefit platform, cost controls, data-driven optimization, personalized packages, streamline your admin, and really clear communication. So, I mean, Ciphr's benefits platform lets you offer more choice and value, and then you can keep costs under control and administration simple as well.
So that then takes us on to technology-driven benefits and digital tools. Are they becoming critical in delivering that seamless experience?
Absolutely. So, I mean, benefits only work if people know about them and use them and understand them. So the column on the left here shows the sort of common pitfalls: low awareness, they don't feel relevant, clunky user experience, and lack of ongoing communication, which means then a cost to the employer of paying for something that nobody is even going to use. So really, from a solutions perspective, you do need to offer a wide range of benefits that employees can tailor to their needs. The centralize the benefits access and management in one platform, use campaigns, reminders, education, just the communication side of thing, tracking the benefit usage with some analytics, feedback, engagement, and link the benefits to wellbeing recognition and reward programs as well.
So not much to do there then. But then we also need to consider the rising costs of those benefits and the provision of them. Exactly.
And that's a huge challenge for benefits team. The risk is that you end up just cutting back when employees need support the most. If you add the next slide, Claire, just sort of focusing on time here as well. The solutions focus really is about being smart, again, flexible, data-driven cost management, streamlined integration, and a clear communication of value as well, just as we keep sort of reiterating. So publish total reward statements, educate employees about the value and the cost of their benefits.
Yeah, and I think that is critical, as we said before, understanding their entire package, not just what they get in their net pay, for example. And then employees are expecting more flexibility. Is that your experience? So this is a statement that's come out from the survey. Is that what you're seeing?
Absolutely. I mean, being flexible is essential. Otherwise,
we're back to that one size doesn't fit all, aren't we?
Exactly. So, employee expectations are evolving fast. People are really upping their game. Employees need to be able to attract talent and show that they're flexible. So, people want the flexibility, the personalization, the wellbeing support. They want quick updates. Poor communication and old systems, they're just not going to use them. And they just won't see the value in their employment. So, flexible modular platforms, rapid deployment of new benefits. You don't want to sign up for something and then be waiting 2 months to wonder where your policy documents are. Inclusion, data-driven insights, and just really sort of keeping in touch with your workforce. And then you can adapt quickly and make sure your benefits are always going to meet the people's needs.
It's also about understanding your workforce, isn't it? And the demographics of your workforce. Because if, for example, you have a workforce that is predominantly over the age of 50, there will be very different benefits required to a younger workforce where, for example, in hospitality, your key staff demographic is maybe under 30.
Exactly. And we're finding, a lot of people sort of under 30 actually are just not really engaging with private medical insurance. So that's why it's nice to have different options for different people, rather than saying, right, these are your core benefits. How about they're able to choose what they're going to sign up for? So, in one size, as we say, doesn't fit all.
Yeah, no, I think back in the day, many years ago, I worked for a company where you were given a benefits value. So you were told you could spend X amount. So say it was £3,000 or £5,000 on your benefits, and you could actually choose your benefits up to that value. That's disappeared a bit over the last 10 or 15 years maybe. But I think that's possibly the way people are going to want to be looking if they've got a broader workforce with different demographics.
Yeah, we do have customers that still do that, and do start it as well. And it's just all about giving choice rather than telling you what you're having. This is what your choices are, and you can make your own decision.
Yeah, and I think that's value and added value for the employees. Catherine, that's us. We've talked a lot. I'm sorry.
You just made it in time. Thanks, Claire, Gina and Paul, for sharing such detailed insight into all of those trends and challenges that our survey participants were sharing, as well as some of your own expertise. If you have any questions for our team, please send them in now. I see, thank you, Paul, that you've responded to some questions in the chat already, just in case we weren't going to get to you. So a couple of questions in there, or comments about AI, people having concerns about that, whether it's going to be accurate. What about if it's incorrect? Paul, what's your view on that?
Yeah, so I thought that was a really good one to finish off with, really. I think that that's quite a theme throughout the industry at the moment. I've been to a number of roundtables about AI in the payroll industry, and I think a couple of people in the chat are voicing the concern of most of the industry, really. And I think certainly what we're trying to do when we come to include AI within our product is not necessarily lean on it for calculations and things like that. We're leaning on it to create the efficiencies. And I think that's where some people's nervousness will get a little bit better, and will alleviate some nervousness around that. We're not going to try and get it to do everything for us when it comes to calculations. There are some concerns about accuracy. But ultimately compliance comes first, and that's what we need to look at. So I think it was a great point to raise.
And actually, can I add in there, I do not believe that AI is ever going to replace the skills and knowledge of the payroll professional. The stuff that is coming through, AI can't understand something new. It learns from the past. So when we've got new challenges coming through, it is about understanding and converting that into knowledge that we can share to then check that the systems are doing it right. It's never going to replace that knowledge and that skill.
Great, I agree.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good note to end on. Thank you everyone for joining us today and for your time. Thanks Paul, Claire and Gina for sharing your expertise. We hope that you found today's broadcast valuable. I know there were some questions in the chat about whether we were going to go into details, the Employment Rights Act, for example. We are covering that in another webinar at the end of February, and in March we have another webinar covering tax year end changes. So look out for those invites in your mailbox soon. We're hoping to open those for registration this week and send you the links with the recording of this broadcast. So if you did want to dive into more of the nuts and bolts of the regulations, Claire will be joining us again, and she will be going through all of that in great detail, much needed detail. So we'll cover all of that soon. So this is really a companion, this broadcast is really a companion to that, looking at some of the broader themes that we might have to contend with this year. So otherwise, thank you very much for joining. If you have any feedback, please share it using the exit form that you'll see on your screen when we close the webinar. You can also use that to opt in and find out more information about our solutions. Otherwise, thank you very much for your time, and we hope to see you again at another webinar soon. Take care. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.